Hey everybody, welcome back. If you're new here, hi, I'm Mercury. So I mentioned recently we are about to have a series of cooking videos because it's almost Thanksgiving. We are almost there. Super exciting, but I got some cooking to do. So because I can't eat traditional stuffing because of the gluten, I need to make my own bread cubes for the stuffing. That being said, bread cubes need to get toasted and a little bit stale for them to really be good for stuffing. So this is the first step of the cooking process. So I have to make the bread cubes that I'm going to later use for my stuffing on Thanksgiving Day. So join me in the kitchen while I make this bread. So I found this recipe online and I will put a link to the recipe in the description of this video. It's a recipe by Danielle Walkers and she does a lot of recipes that are good for SCD, selective carbohydrate diet, which is a cousin diet to the diet that I follow. So it's great. I don't really need to make any modifications to it because as is, it's good for my tummy. So let me show you the ingredient lineup. Here are the ingredients that you're gonna need. You're gonna need some baking soda, butter or coconut oil. This is farmer cheese. Remember I was on a quest for farmer cheese? This is what I needed it for. This is my almond flour, eggs, salt. It called for herbs. I'm going to be using rosemary and thyme. And it also needs water. Now you do need a bit of equipment. It does say to use a food processor. I don't know if you could do it without the food processor, but I have one and that's what it calls for, so we're doing it. The other thing is you're gonna need to line a baking dish with parchment paper, which I have already done. So what I do is I take either coconut oil or butter and I rub the bottom of the pan and I stick the parchment paper to that. And let me show you so you can see how easy and clean it looks. So this is how it looks. You could see the butter smears there because they literally stuck to it. And then I just fold this over. I'm gonna trim these edges off before I bake it. But that way, it's nice and easy to get it out of this pan. So the way this is written sounds incredibly easy. You have to combine all the ingredients except for the flour and the water first in the food processor. Then you add the flour and water in and you pulse it until it forms a dough. And you put it in the pan and you bake it off. Sounds pretty straightforward to me. So let's do it. First up, farmer cheese. And you just go bloop. You need it all. We need it all, and the way it's packaged, super easy. And in case you're not familiar with farmer cheese, basically it's just the curds, like the lumpy part of cottage cheese. So it's cottage cheese without the liquid. That's all farmer cheese is. Next up is the butter, and it wanted the butter melted. So that's what we did. Then we need baking soda. Then a bit of salt. Then we need the eggs. And finally, the herbs. We're gonna put this lid on. Time to go mixy mix. Now it's all blended. Time to add that almond flour and the water. Also, this is the consistency after I mixed it all up. So that's what I got. So hopefully that's right. Now in goes the water. Put this lid back on. Put that in there so it doesn't go everywhere. And it said specifically to pulse. So that means we're going to turn it on and off, on and off, on and off until it comes together in a dough. So I think this is it. It said it's going to be a very sticky type of dough. That looks like a sticky type of dough. I guess it's time to put in the pan. So this recipe did call for a 9x9 pan. Unfortunately, mine recently broke. So my pan was actually a little bigger and I was thinking I was gonna have to adjust the temperature or the time, and I still might, but this dough was very, very thick and it really held its shape. So what I did is I didn't spread it all the way to the edge. I spread it out to about where a 9 by 9 would end. And as you can see, even as I'm holding it, it's staying put. So it's that thick of a dough. So now it goes in the oven and we're gonna bake it. Let's see how it turns out. And it is done. It is out of the oven and it has cooled. So this is what it looks like. As you could see, it did rise a bit and it did spread out a bit, but it looks pretty good. So the next step, I have to cut into cubes. So I have just like a cupboard, big knife. We're gonna cut it into cubes. Then we gotta toast it. It says to put some melted butter on it and toast the cubes. And by doing that in the oven at 300 degrees. So that's what I'm gonna work on now. Okay, even though it has a fish on it, it is not a fish board. It's okay, it's been washed. It's just a picture of a fish. It's okay. Okay. That's the best way to do this. How do I free it from the parchment paper? Ah. Brilliant. That was so easy. Excellent. Okay, let's flip this. Okay, we'll do like half. Like that. And let's see what the inside looks like. Oh, look at that. It has some good air pockets in there too. Look at that. Excellent. Okay, I'm going to put one to the side while I cut up the other one. So we'll go half and half of that and half of that and then half of that and half of that and half of that and half of that. Okay, I think we're getting somewhere here. And we'll go here and here and here. Are these too big? I think these are still too big, y'all. I think they have to be more like this. Yeah, like that. That's what we want. We'll cut that one in half. This one's a little big, so that one gets cut in half. Okay, so I'm cutting them into this size. So I have all of the bread cut into these little cubes. I didn't want them to be sort of like on top of each other, so I have two different trays. I have that glass one and this cookie tray. And next up, I need to coat them with butter. So I'm gonna use the silicone brush, and I have some melted butter, and we're just gonna mix up the melty butter, and we're gonna go paint with the butter, and then it's gonna go in the oven and get all toasty. Paint. Paint. Painting with the butter, making it delicious. With the butter for the toasty, for the yum yums. Yeah. So I just took them out of the oven. I did let them go longer than the recipe called for. Actually 20 minutes longer. Because when I first took them out, they were still quite soft. But now look at this. It's got a nice golden brown, nice and toasty. That's what I was looking for. Look at this, all nice and toasty. Yeah. So that's it. So the bread cubes for the stuffing are done. They're ready. So we're gonna time jump because it's not time to actually make the stuffing just yet. So we're gonna time jump, maybe even to Thanksgiving Day. I'm not sure yet. I have to coordinate with my mom for oven space. So I'm either gonna do this the day before Thanksgiving, before I go there, or on Thanksgiving Day. It's to be determined, but for you, it'll just be a second. Time jump. Okay, I am back. And it is time to put the stuffing together. So I know I said I wasn't sure what day I was gonna do this. I spoke to my mom and she said that I should put the stuffing together before I get there for Thanksgiving. So it's, we're in the crunch time. We are in crunch time. So I gotta go get those bread cubes I made and start getting all the rest of the stuffing ingredients together. Let's go, let's do it. So here is our ingredient lineup. We have butter, we have mushrooms, an onion, celery. These are the bread cubes. We have garlic, an apple, olive oil, salt, rosemary, thyme, sage, broth, salt and pepper, eggs, parsley, and vermouth. And that is what we got to get assembling here. So this recipe does call for sausage, which I am omitting because that's not my kind of thing. So I just want to give you a heads up. It is in the recipe, but I'm leaving it out. So the next stage has to get done on the stove. So I have my big pot because it's going to use a bunch of liquid. So I figure it's easier to do the sauteing in this big old pot as opposed to doing to a skillet and transferring, and keep it simple. One pot. So I prepped all of these veggies. So you see the apple, well, that's a fruit, but you know, onion, celery, garlic, that's all on here also. I also have my mushrooms over here. And then on this plate, I have all my herbs and spices. So all of this is gonna go into the pot, little olive oil, and we're gonna saute it. And then after that, we'll start adding in some of the liquids. Okay, everything's starting to soften up a bit. Okay, the next step is I'm gonna add in the vermouth. And it says to let it come to a boil and then remove it from the heat. And by boiling it, you're really cooking off all of the alcohol, but you're getting the flavor. So I'm just gonna toss that around real quick. Okay, and we'll let that come to a boil. So now that that's come to a boil, I've turned off the heat, I've taken it off the burner, and I'm letting it cool down. Now, based on the recipe, it says to let it cool while the bread cubes are finishing and cooling, but I did that, a day or two ago. So I have to really let it cool down. And the reason why that's so important is I don't want these to turn into like breakfast of scrambled eggs. So anytime that you're cooking with eggs and you have something that's at a higher temperature, you have to be super careful that you don't end up with scrambled eggs. It's something that can happen. So we're letting this cool all the way down. Don't get antsy. You just gotta let it happen. Just let it cool. And then we're gonna do the next steps, which is gonna be adding in the broth, the eggs, and those bread cubes along with the salt and pepper. Mixing that up and into the oven. And then hopefully we'll have stuffing. Okay, moving along. We're doing it. So now that mixture has cooled down, I have to get my pan all prepared. So you can see I have my silicone little brush, and I am planning to paint it with melted butter. So I have some melted butter in here. And if you don't want to do it this way, you could just take like butter and smear it. You just want to make sure it's not sticky. So I'm just taking a few dabs and I'm going to paint around the bottom and the edges to make sure that this is going to be good and coated so that this won't be too sticky, and nice little buttery flavor. That's the added bonus. Okay. Excellent. Good and coated. We're moving around the kitchen a little, so now I'm back over here. So I'm back at the pot, and what we're gonna do, we're gonna add the stock, which I measured out over here. We need to add in the salt and pepper. We got the pepper. Now we got to put in our eggs. We're going to mix this all up. And those bread cubes I made, those are going in now. It's time. I'm just gonna give them a good toss. Get them coated so they absorb all that liquid. All these fruits and veggies get mixed in. But you still gotta be gentle enough that you're not gonna bust them apart. You still want them to be kind of cubey. Otherwise it'll turn kind of mushy, and that's not fun. Okay. This is what I got. We're gonna pour it into the casserole dish. I'm gonna put a little butter on top, and right on into the oven. It is out of the oven. It looks pretty good. This looks very, very good to me. But there's only one way to find out. Moment of truth. I scooped out a little sample because I need to know. I need to know if the stuffing quest is over or if the stuffing quest is going to continue next year. I need an answer. I need to know if this is going to be it. So, moment of truth. Let's give it a taste. Okay. It's really, really good. It's really, really good. I'm content with this. It is not the same as the stuffing that I used to have before I went on this diet. But it's still really good. It's not quite the same. And maybe it's because I cooked it in a casserole dish and not in the bird. That'll be a different experiment for a different day. But compared to the stuffing experiments of the past few years, this is the best one yet. This is by far the best one yet. So there's progressive improvement, which is amazing. I'm still on a grand search for a true one-to-one replacement for what I used to have. Haven't found it exactly yet. This was really good. This is really good. This is up there. I'm excited. I'm excited. This is a huge victory. This is a huge, huge victory. So again, the recipe is going to be in the description of this video. The only real change I made to it was that I omitted the sausage because that's not my jam. That's not how I wanted it to be. So this was great. This was fabulous. And I guess with that, I'm done for the day. I'll see you all real soon. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone, and stay inspired by. Take care.